Welcome to Supply Chain Tech Podcast with Romby. In this episode, we speak with Rajesh Chauhan, an enterprise architect and technology strategist at Interstate Batteries. Rajesh shares with us his experience of driving an operational efficiency strategy using live sales velocity and automated inventory replenishment signals across his dealerships. He also talks about the challenges he faced with legacy inventory tracking systems like RFID, the solutions he has considered or decided against, and finally, what worked out for him. And so thank you for joining, Raj, again. And today we'll be discussing the use of IoT technologies and digitalization technologies for the purposes of gaining operational efficiencies as the sort of overarching theme. So I'm curious for you to explain to us, what are some of the specific problems or challenges that you're trying to solve for through the deployment of these types of technologies?
You're talking specifically in our use case, right? And I before I jump to that answer, I think it will be good to know what we do and why exactly that operational efficiency is critical to us. So we are a supply chain, a pure B2B supply chain company. We don't manufacture anything. And also our market presence is in an aftermarket battery business.
Right.
We have very limited source of suppliers who can provide us our products. Predominantly, there are 3 or 4 known companies. Some of them you know already. It's like JCI, Johnson Control, ex-Johnson Control now. Company is Clarios, Excite. There are a couple of more small and big companies around there, but predominantly those 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. So a limited supply chain suppliers. We have a network of 250 odd distributors through which we operate and service around 250,000 dealer locations. Right. So if you, most of the OE car manufacturers, other than Porsches, BMW, GM, and Ford, their service center, if you go there, those batteries are ours. It is private label for them. We control roughly around 20% of the market. Okay. And the aftermarket. Now, when you look into our business model, what is our existing business model? It's a high touch business model. The reason is these distributors who operate in our ecosystem, they are independent entities. Also, the product is delivered more of in a, I would say, a lack of controlled way how the product. So distributors to a large extent buy the product from Interstate Batteries. The product gets serviced or supplied by the supplier direct to the distributor. So there is a disconnect in this whole process. So we lose the sight of where our product is, how much is there, as well as from an operational aspect, there are multiple handshakes in our business processes which exist. They're very manual, technologies, flaky, any kind of real-time inventory, data quality. So there are multiple what's called underlying issues, which also adds on to the operational efficiencies which we have or which we cannot account for as of right now. I hope that answers your questions around the operational efficiencies or requirement for that in our current.
Thank you. So, what are the impacts of some of those inefficiencies in terms of on your business that you're trying to measure and improve?
Perfect. Thank you for asking that question. Our biggest challenge is the cost to deliver the product. Mm-hmm. So from the time, if I'll take one more step back, our business is a fixed cost business model.
Okay.
Also, the product is seasonal in nature and has a shelf life. So 2 things: the seasonality, fixed costs, and it is being a what's called perishable product.
So I'm not a car guy per se. So what is the seasonality aspect of batteries? When are they more likely to move?
So higher the temperature or the lower the temperature, you will see more sale. And because all the batteries are built to kind of have a longer life or a sustained life at a standard temperature. So seasonality plays a huge thing. And when you have your supply chain where there is a fixed supply, right, they don't scale up and down.
Right.
But our business scales up and down. So when you have that kind of scenario, we have to manage our inventory, making sure we have right product, right place at right time. And sometimes time could be weeks to prepare, and it could be a need where you could be slow in reacting to those scenarios, and you will lose large amount of your business to your competitors.
Okay.
So going back to our questions about cost to operate our business, and I'll probably share an idea around. We've been operating this business from last 70 years, and I believe the way we operate. So think about it: we procure the product from the supplier, it goes to distributors. Distributors have their own territory, which is geographical specified. There are multiple drivers, or so-called, we call them RSM, route service managers. They load the truck with a fixed quantity of batteries purely by their knowledge or the local knowledge what the distributor has it. So nothing has been digitized. It is all somebody's mind, and somebody knows about their dealers, their routes and everything. They load 400 batteries, 500 batteries in the truck, go make a stop at those 25, 30 locations, which they have to go look at the rack and find out what is being sold. Remember, they might not have visited this place in last 1 week, 2 weeks, or maybe a month. They just happen to be there. And that's where the first thing they figure it out what sale really happened. Our business model is a consignment business model. So the inventory which is there at the dealer location is really ours. So we only get paid when dealer sells it. The problem is we get to that visibility late in the time. By the time we see the visibility, there is every possibility, two things. We just don't know whether all the batteries which are sold by the dealer were ours. And second, what dealer sold and when he sold, because we have no idea, no integrations with their point of sale solution. And some of these John garages don't even use any kind of technology. Most of their work is done on paper. So a business strategy was looked into and thought about a couple of years back. We brought in Bain, who did a great job for us and provided us what our inefficiencies looks like and why it does exactly, and how much do we really cost to sell one battery. And it came to around $13 to $16 per battery is what is our spend to service a customer. And that's a huge thing. And out of that, if I eliminate other deficiencies around sales and hard shot, there are new capabilities which you talk about. Purely from a supply chain operation perspective, there was roughly around $6 to $7 per battery, which was an expensive proposition. And that is where we're targeting right now ourselves, how to reduce that footprint, how to reduce the cost.
What type of solutions or technologies have you previously tried to deploy to gain these operational efficiencies, and where or what type of limitations may have you encountered with those legacy technologies?
So we have, I would say, not heavily invested into technologies to eliminate these operational efficiencies. And I think to a large extent, it has to do with our technology ecosystem. Our distributor operations, which is 250 different locations, runs through an application which is built on VB and Access. Think about it. 90% of our transactions go through that. And it is not one copy, it is 250 copies of them. So they don't talk to each other. So the technology is a significant barrier when you have every distributor playing in their own ecosystem and they don't collaborate and communicate effectively and efficiently. Doesn't matter what kind of overlay we're going to put it over it from a technology space, does not help.
Sure.
I think 4 years back, I would say 4 to 5 years back, we invested heavily into RFID technology to find out if we take our racks and make them a smarter rack using RFID technology, whenever the product being put there and pull out, we know exactly what the demand looks like. And we did a small pilot at 4 or 5 different distributor locations. 2 things which didn't materialize. One, RFID as a radio signal had tough time breaking lead. The battery consists of lead and acid, right? And RFID just could not penetrate. So the complexity became technology challenge for time of it. And second is cost. For us to get over the hurdle of lead, we had to use the active RFID as our solution, which just became too expensive to support our business case. So that was shut down until after when the new business strategy and our CEO made a call saying that, hey, we're going to go pilot something in this technology space and find out how can we effectively drive demand signal.
Right.
We started looking into multiple technologies, and that's where we found how the BLE can help enable us, and obviously our relationship with Rombi. We do have other vendors also as part of that conversation, but definitely at this point in time, whatever we are doing with Rombi in our pilot and POC has given us at least good results, at least from a site perspective, that if we continue to mature that, it will give us what we need.
Great. So for the sake of people that may be listening to this afterwards, can you talk a little bit about how you were deploying these low energy Bluetooth technologies and how that's actually helping you with operational efficiencies from what you've seen so far?
Perfect. So our first use case, or I would say a couple of use cases around using a demand signal to reduce our operational cost as well as create operational efficiency was, first, we only show up to a dealer location where the demand exists. So do not do the milk routes, aka. Second, the cost to operate the trucks, because you're loading large amount of quantity of lead and you're moving it through the streets, which is a hazardous material.
Right.
So you needed a heavy duty trucks and obviously the commercial drivers, so you can reduce the cost of operating just purely the truck delivery model. And third thing was, let me rethink. Third thing was ability to start looking into this operational aspect of it from not a distributor to a dealer operation model, but maybe a real-time moving inventory from a tiered supply chain model perspective. And when I say tiered supply chain model, means something what Amazons and the Walmarts do it so effectively. The product comes to a fulfillment center or their distributor center. From a distribution center, it goes to the fulfillment center, it gets locally distributed. So we are looking to use the same technology to create new business opportunities, to create new business operation if we have the right technology in this space.
Right.
So to answer your question, we are in a pilot phase right now in one of our distributorship, and we are already running 2 routes as a dynamic route. So get the demand signal for the 2 routes. When I say 2 routes, a route is associated to a geographical location. So within that geographical location, as soon as we see that there is a demand, that demand gets translated back to the visits, and the visits get translated to what route we should go today. And every day we reach to those dealers where the demand is. And that has helped reduce the amount of batteries which we carry, as well as our dealers. What we found is they have the product which they need at any given point in time, as well as we don't lose sale to our competitors.
Right. So from a technical perspective, how is the system actually working in store to be able to monitor demand?
Perfect. So the idea, the concept was as old as the RFID concept, which we said. Because of our business being a consignment model, we wanted a least intrusion on the dealer's operations. So we don't want the Joe's garages or the Toyota service center or a Firestone service station to be impacted from their daily operations. So how to eliminate or to build this technology solution in their normal operational mode was the critical success.
Okay.
So how to do that was, in place of asking them to do 5 or 6 steps for helping us enable this technology, we got to a stage saying that they have to simply take out the tag, which is sitting on the battery, and put it in a small bucket. Okay, so think about it. We tag all the batteries in our warehouse. That battery gets loaded on the truck, gets put it on the shelf, and what do we call a retail location, which is nothing but a shelf. So that's a logical entity saying that the shelf is nothing but a place where our products are.
Right.
And the dealer, as soon as he sells the battery as part of the process, which we did not ask them to do anything more or different than take out that tag and put it in a small bucket. The bucket is called sold bucket.
Okay.
In this ecosystem, now the technology takes it over. Under the hood, it is all the technology which is saying that where the tag was, and because the asset is tagged to that BLE tag, the presence and absence of tags now starts telling me where my product is. And my racks have gone from a dumb rack to a smart racks.
Right. So battery sold, tag taken off because it's no longer present or it's present in a different location. You now know that that has moved out of the store. And if you have a certain threshold, then you can say, okay, we're going to bring in X number to replace.
Perfect. So the absence of the tags in a retail location says that something happened. That something happens get translated back using the data processing or the IoT analytics, saying that knowing what is the consignment level at that dealer location is, knowing what has happened to these 2 tags or these 5 tags which have been now considered sold, there is a demand. Remember, it's not one-to-one replacement because you just want to be effectively going to that dealer. Just because we might have 10 of the same thing in a given dealer location. So I'll just give you an example. They might have 5 MT34, and I'm just giving you, I hope that is okay with you, the product names. 5 MT34 and 5 MT35s. Okay, or I would say 2 MT35s. If they sell 2 of the MT34, that does not translate that I got to go visit because he already has 3 more.
Right.
So the data analytics drive that outcome which says that here is the demand signal, and this demand signal translates into a visit. And that optimization happens outside the IoT space, but as part of data analytics operations, and which gets served back to our transport management system, which says that, hey, you need to make these many visits. This is the route today you're going to take. This is the product, and here's the dealers that you're going to visit.
Right.
Sense?
And have you found in your testing so far that it to be a simple enough process that a majority of the dealers or the stores themselves are actually following the process?
So there has been a training which we go through as part of onboarding a given dealer to this ecosystem. We have around 280 odd dealers in this space right now as part of this pilot. So as part of onboarding, they go through a training. They've been told what exactly they have to do. There has been some pushback in some cases, but more education around saying that, hey, we are not doing this thing for our operation. We want to make sure it is for your benefit. So that is the critical aspect of it, because you don't want their consumers to come to a dealer location and they don't have the right battery to sell them. So how do we do that thing is that little help of them moving the tag, which we keep giving them analogy that you go to Best Buy or stores, right? There are magnetic tags, expensive product when you're selling it, right? It is just becomes a routine. So initially it becomes a bottleneck in the sense is I have to do this one step, but through the muscle memory building and training and making sure that they recognize this step, it has become a fairly acceptable solution right now. I don't see any dealer complaining about it.
Right. And conversely, I'm guessing they don't want a lot of inventory in their store that takes up space that they don't need at that point in time.
That is one thing. Thank you. I think that's it. That's one aspect which we found, and we are trying hard. So there was always a process in the place, making sure we have the right set of SKUs and the depth at the rack. In fact, we have floated a new process going live on June 15th, which is going much deeper into taking account of COVID-19 and current scenarios which are happening. And so it is far more intelligent process right now to make sure when we get the demand signal, when it gets converted to where exactly visit has to happen and what products which we have to put. It has expanded beyond just purely the demand signal. It is also looking into the market aspect, pandemic scenarios, different escalation. What is the distribution of cars looks like that in zip code, where the consumer come from. So there are a lot of other data sets which get added to processing this demand signal.
Great. So you touched on it briefly at the beginning of our conversation, but in terms of your ambitions to expand the usage of tracking and monitoring IoT-based technologies for visibility purposes, what are you thinking? What's sort of an ideal end-to-end system in terms of what you want to be able to see and how that would benefit you versus what you may be able to get today?
Yeah, most of our roadblocks today outside the realm of IoT space where we are working with Rombi and a partnership has been our operation systems, data quality. So there are some foundational gap into our ecosystem. You cannot have you cannot have this isolated operational environment, 250 of them. So you have to bring all our all the players onto the same ecosystem. So there is a technology shift, or so-called our technology transformation is put in the queue right now, and we hope once it is there in place and we have this integrated ERP with the capabilities around from order to cash, sales, quote to pricing, transport management, inventory management, warehouse management, planning. So it's a integrated platform where the demand signal, which is originating from this IoT services, in its raw format can be consumed and processed in real time across all our 250 distributors. Not only that, across all the fulfillment center new business operation model, which we're talking about, which I mentioned earlier. And now we have a clear picture of what product resides at what place, right?
Right.
Where exactly it need to be sourced from, where it need to be sent to, and a last mile delivery, like how you see in the land of Amazons, right? I place an order and I get the product. In between, everything which is happening is so organic and so automatic that there is least number of manual touch points which we expect in this future state. So IoT is one space of it, but you got to have a strong foundational operational platform as well, because I could get really good demand signal, but if I cannot apply it in our operational world, there's no benefit out of it.
Absolutely. It's a means to an end, but not an end to itself.
Exactly. And I think we are looking from that aspect that we want to see the maturity of the technology. Can this be leveled and taken to the next level? And on every stage of our existing pilot, what we are testing, we are evaluating explicitly around, hey, if we choose to do this thing, how it's going to fit into this long-term roadmap or long-term technology roadmap, which we are looking at.
Right. Okay. Any other topics you want to discuss?
And I feel like I would like to say thank you to the Rombi team. It's a part coincidence as well as here is something which I would like to, if somebody is listening and hearing this information, right, for them to be to do a successful IoT, look into your own space and see what makes sense to you. There are 15 different ways you can enable IoT. You have to play by your strength, what you want to take over from a technology aspect of it, and for what things you want to partner with somebody else. So a lesson learned during our recent stint with BLE, this is, I think I did not mention that we experimented with RFID. We've experimented with Bluetooth also, but of our own.
Okay.
Without taking a help of a good partner. In that process, we started designing our own BLE tags. We started designing our own BLE gateways and the whole IoT infrastructure. And we went that route deep almost for 6 to 8 months, and we realized that that is not the strength of Interstate Battery where we want to play. And the business case or the proposition initially, which was to support this technology, it, from a financial aspect of it, from an outcome versus the financial model, it got thrown out pretty soon. And we realized that it is going to be very, very expensive for us to build this ecosystem of our own.
Sure.
We brought in a bunch of partners, started engaging with them, asking them how they can help. And through that process, we realized that, hey, we are purely an IoT consumers. We are not the IoT, what's called the technology ownership perspective. We should not be reinventing the wheel if it is already been taken care by some partners, and they are far more mature in that space. Go partner with them. So we looked into Rombi purely from that perspective. We said that, hey, how can we offload our deficiencies or our capabilities gap and look into how Rombi can fit into this equation. Now, I'm pretty sure there are other partners in the market, but as a technologist, which is my job, as a technology strategy, as an architect, as an IoT architect, look into what fits your use case. BLE may not be your best solution. There could be other solutions. You may need BLE with other technologies like visual or pictures or RFID, it all depends on what fits your best for your use cases.
Right.
And how do you want to translate and embed into your operational model? What I have found is mostly people will take the technology and force fit into your operational model. What that causes is a rift or a friction in your operational model, becomes very difficult to adopt and continue to grow, and it falls apart. So look into this what's called a harmonious integration between your business operation model and how do you bring the IoT, two of them together. Because if they don't talk and they causes friction to each other, both will fail.
Absolutely.
I hope that helps.
No, that gives a really good perspective. Thank you for that, because in the market today, even still, we see that there's a good number of IoT implementations that wind up failing. I think that's a pretty strong root cause as to why, because they're not matching the operational needs against the technology being deployed.
Right. And whatever IoT you put in place, solution you put in place, your business has to accept saying that they might have to make some operation changes as well. Right. So your old way of doing business and new way of doing business might look significant different. In some cases, maybe slightly different, but make sure you account for it. Not accounting for that and right. Not being prepared for it is really business gets a pushback and says that, hey, technology, you're trying to push me to do things which we never did it. So make sure you have the right set of training, set the right goals, right process in place. Your new operating model, make sure you have a clear visibility from where the IoT starts to engage in this ecosystem, all the way where it gets out of the IoT realm, more into their operational system, and how the technology put together is one solve, it's not multiple solve. So that's right. Another thing. People look into IoT as a solve, and their operational system as different solve. They all got to hum together.
Right. All right, wonderful, Raj. Thank you very much for your time today.
Hey, thank you for wonderful time, and I hope you have good time in Chicago. You here next time in Dallas? Give me a call.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to be able to follow up and see how it's progressing and ask some of the users, or even the end users of the technology on your end, and really make sure that it, from a use perspective, that it's doing what it needs to be doing and how we can improve.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you
very much. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Hi, my name is Scott Mears, and I'm one of the hosts of the Supply Chain Tech podcast with Roamby. On this podcast, we talk to supply chain heroes from around the world about everything, ranging from the disruptions related to supply chains, their personal experiences with tracking technologies, strategies to build resilience, and much, much more. We already have some recommended videos for you to the side of me, and if any of this sounds interesting to you, do subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another Roamby video. I'll see you next time.